Hello guys, I'm going to be sharing some information about the final presentation so that you can understand what to do in case you are struggling, and I will also mention some resources to help you. So at this point you have finished part 1, part 2, part 3, and part 4, and so we have learned about photosynthesis and respiration, cellular respiration. We have learned about macromolecules. We have learned about metabolism. We have learned about biomagnification and bioaccumulation in those different 4 parts of the other assignments. Those 4 parts will help you finish this final task. So when you open this PowerPoint slide deck, this is now your copy. It should have your name up at the top right here so that you know it's your copy. You can keep all the formatting the same. You can keep the same colors, the same font, but you're welcome to change all the formatting. You can change the colors, you can change the font, you can add slides, you can change the pictures. So that's what this first slide is about, is that you can add things, you can make this presentation your own, and you can click on these links so that you have some extra information to help you describe and use the best language as possible. Okay, so slide 3, performance assessment task. Using a provided model, this is the model right here on slide 4. Using the provided model, students will construct an explanation of how photosynthesis and cellular respiration contribute to the transfer of energy and matter in an individual organism and through the ecosystem. You are going to pretend that you are a Department of Natural Resources officer studying the bald eagle population in Colorado. You are making a presentation for other Department of Natural Resources officers, so basically like you're making a presentation so that you can teach other people about what's going on with these eagles. A baking soda manufacturer, who shall remain nameless, has been accused of depositing radioactive compounds into a river in Colorado. The Department of Natural Resources is concerned about where the radioactivity will end up. You test for evidence of radioactivity in and around the river and find high concentrations of radioactive carbon in bald eagles. Radioactive carbon is a carbon molecule that has more protons than neutrons, and when these carbon molecules, or when any of these elements are unstable like that, they can damage human tissues, they can create cancers, and I don't just mean human tissues, I mean living things, the cells. They can damage the DNA and the cells of living things, creating cancer and reproductive issues amongst living things. So you are going to pretend that you're a Department of Natural Resources officer, and you're going to create a model that shows how the radioactive carbon cycled and energy flowed from the river through the ecosystem and ultimately ended up in the bald eagle. If you look at this bright yellow sentence right here, ultimately, your project that you're turning into me, you're creating a Google presentation that you will present to your colleagues explaining how the radioactive carbon ended up in the bald eagles. So you are not actually going to present this, you are just turning it into me. I will be grading your presentation. You will not have to actually present your presentation. You're creating a slideshow so that you could explain what's going on if this was a real life scenario. Slide 4 is the model provided. There's a bigger version of this on a Word doc linked in Google Classroom. If you want to see it up close, you can also come over here to the magnifying glass, click on the window for zoom. You can zoom in to 100% or more. So you are going to look at this to help explain the questions on slide 5. Slide 5, what are the components shown in this model? Why are these parts shown? How does the model show the components interact in this system? Remember, we did some work with models before we went on spring break, and we said all good models have components, interactions, and mechanisms. So the components are the actual physical things that you see. The interactions are the arrows and what they mean and how we can tell these things relate to each other to explain the mechanism, the phenomena of what's happening to this bald eagle population. Okay, slide 6. Where does the system get its energy? It's still relating to this system in general, still relating back to this model. You're answering all of these questions. You can cut and paste these questions into different slides to space them out. You can also answer them in a paragraph form if you prefer not to answer them question by question. So if you would rather write me a paragraph on one of these slides, kind of answering 2 or 3 or 4 questions at a time, and then write a second paragraph explaining the other questions at a time, that would be helpful. Also, here's a good time to go back to slide 2 and click on these links for describe, cause and effect, and analysis. So when you're describing what's going on, here is some good sentence frames. You want to look at these level 3 and 4 sentence frames to help you describe what's going on. If you're trying to describe cause and effect, that's happening in the food chain and in photosynthesis and cellular respiration. Here are some good words and some good sentence frames for cause and effect. And lastly, analysis. If you're trying to analyze what's going on, to explain to me what's happening, here are some words that you could use or some sentence frames for analysis, analyze. Back to slide 6. Slide 7. This is basically the conclusion of your presentation. It's a very important slide. How did the radioactive compound get into the eagles? Your answer should be longer than 1 sentence. Your answer should use the words biomagnification, photosynthesis, cellular respiration. Your answer might include some of the words about carbon, radioactive carbon, chemicals, food chain. Those are all words that will help answer this question right here. So this should be a complete thought. It should be multiple sentences. It should give me a good idea that you understood what was happening in parts 1, 2, 3, and 4 assignments and how they relate to the bald eagles now. Some of your presentations might have a weighted extension slide, slide 8 and 9. You're welcome to answer the weighted extension slide, and I will consider that in your grade. However, you do not have to. That is optional. That weighted extension slide was put in for honors biology, for the students in honors biology that are receiving weighted credit. If you have any other questions, please, you can send me an email. You can use Google Hangouts. You can ask to have a video chat. Those are all good ways to reach me. I will also have office hours, Wednesdays and Fridays, from 10 to 11. Hope this helps. Bye-bye.